Following Trump revoking the security clearance of John Brennan, there have been talks regarding other individuals who could also get their security clearance taken away. We've talked about that before, but there are all sorts of updates that I thought were fascinating and I wanted to share with you. The first has to do with a conversation that took place on CNN involving Phil Mudd debating someone by the name of Paris Dennard. Now, Phil Mudd has security clearance. He is very concerned about Trump retaliating against individuals' free speech by taking their clearance away if they criticize Trump. And so this conversation got very heated. I wouldn't even call it a conversation. But anyway, take a look, judge for yourselves, and then we'll break it down for you.
A lot of these people that have these security clearances, and this is the secret in the swampy Washington, D.C., they have them and they keep them because it's profitable for them after they leave government. Because if you have a security clearance, especially high-level security clearances, your contracts and your consulting gigs pay you a lot more money because of the access that you have.
Profitable, Paris. When I am requested to sit on an advisory board, let me ask you one question. How much do you think I'm paid to do that at the request of the US government? Give me one answer and you got 10 seconds. How much?
I'll ask you a question. How much are you paid for your consulting and
question.
Contracting gigs? For being a
I have no contracts with the US government that pay money.
I'm not talking
Zero.
I'm not talking, Phil, that's a good talking point. I'm not talking about relationships with the government. I'm talking about in the private sector. When you have a security clearance and you keep it. I have zero
relationships with the private sector that involve my security clearance. Zero.
Well, I will be clear in saying that everybody in Washington, D.C. knows if you don't want to be honest about it, that's on you. But if you have a security clearance and you keep it, you get more money to have it.
We're done. Get out.
Phil, it's not your show, so I'm staying right here.
And this
Don't
be
defensive about
this.
Get
out.
Okay.
That was fun.
Yeah.
My favorite part was Phil Mudd's eyes opening like I've never seen any eye open in my life when he talked about profitable and he was like, "What did you say?"
Yeah, he was very angry.
Yeah, but are you ready for this? I'm going to shock the world.
Yeah.
The Trump supporter's right.
No, you're not shocking the world because the Trump supporter was right. Oftentimes they do make money, working for private companies, using the security clearance that they have, the knowledge that they have. I don't know about Phil Mudd. He's a former FBI official, just to make that clear. I don't know about him. NCI. I don't know about him specifically, but there have been members of the intelligence community who then go on to work as consultants, and they do make a lot of money because of their security clearance and their knowledge. So
what Phil Mudd was trying to do there, and let me give you the context. Overall, I agree with Phil Mudd on almost all the other things he talks about on air, especially vis-a-vis Donald Trump. I can't stand Donald Trump. Phil Mudd apparently can't stand Donald Trump. He's right about all those things. But in this case, he was trying to misdirect. Paris Dennard, who I don't agree with on anything else, was saying, no, it gives you clout, and that is why private companies hire you, your security clearance, right? It doesn't mean that you're taking your security clearance and telling them the secrets. It just gives you clout. And Phil Mudd kept saying, I'm getting no money from the government. But that's not what he was saying. Nobody thinks you're getting money from the government. And that's why you're trying to misdirect. And part of the reason you're so angry is because that is how Washington works. And a lot of the former officials go get contracts with private companies, sometimes as lobbyists, sometimes as lawyers, sometimes as consultants, etc. The military does this all the time. The generals retire and immediately work for defense contractors and make a ton of money, and it becomes a revolving door. And so again, nothing against Phil Mudd. I know some of the companies that he works for, but it's the general principle more than it is anything else. And I think he might have taken it personally because he knows that, yes, that definitely gives him clout in Washington, which a lot of people monetize.
Okay, but I want to be clear about something because while Dennard is right in what he says there, understand, the framing. The issue with Trump revoking security clearance is it's a free speech violation. If someone's criticizing Trump, he will go after them and try to revoke their security clearance as a way of retaliating. That is the issue here. But what Dennard is doing there is trying to make it seem as though that's not the issue. The issue is that these people then go on to make money doing other things with their security clearance.
Yeah, and I can prove that point. Well, if Donald Trump is so concerned about the revolving door of corruption in Washington, why doesn't he push for legislation to make sure that they can't work for those private corporations?
He doesn't care about that.
Elizabeth Warren introduced legislation on that just today. Why doesn't he sign up for Elizabeth Warren's legislation? Because of course he doesn't care about that. He loves that corruption. He's using taking away security clearance for a political reason, even though those folks actually didn't do anything wrong. You could take away their security clearance legitimately if they leaked information.
Right.
But there is no charge of that against John Brennan or any of these other people. So there's no innocent parties here. Trump people are clearly using it for politics, which is outrageous. But Phil Mudd and the others pretending that they're not monetizing it is disingenuous, which leads us to Clapper.
Yeah, well, before we get to Clapper, I want to further prove the point that Trump is doing this, to retaliate, because all Trump does is watch cable news. And so he came across that segment and tweeted about it, and here's what he said. Just watched former intelligence official Philip Mudd become totally unglued and weird while debating wonderful Paris Dennard over Brennan's security clearance. Dennard destroyed him, but Mudd is in no mental condition to have such a clearance. Should be revoked, and then he included Sean Hannity in the tweet. I mean, come on, guys. I mean, we're having a discussion about whether or not he's doing this to retaliate. Of course he's doing it to retaliate. Now, the second part of this story is James Clapper. So James Clapper says that he disagrees with revoking security clearance in the case of Brennan, but he also throws Brennan under the bus. And then I'm gonna give you Trump's response, which made me wanna pull my hair out. So with that said, let's take a look at the video.
Do you think that John Brennan's hyperbole is an issue here? Is one of the reasons we're having this crisis?
Well, I think it is. I think John is sort of like a freight train, and he's going to say what's on his mind. I think, though, that the common denominator among all of us that have been speaking up, though, is genuine concern about the jeopardy or threats to our institutions and values. And although we may express that in different ways, and I think that's what this really is about. But John and his rhetoric have become, I think, an issue in and of itself.
Clapper is the worst.
He really is.
So this is the same guy who lied to Congress. And all the time that the so-called resistance people were celebrating Brennan, Clapper, and all those guys, we told you all along, don't trust those guys. So they might be right about Trump, but they're part of the same establishment that caused the problems in the first place. Now here comes Clapper, who was also criticizing Trump. But now Trump is bullying people and threatening their security clearance, and that might cost them money. All of a sudden, Clapper throws Brennan under the bus.
You know, Brennan's rhetoric,
it's problematic.
It's a problem, yeah.
No, Donald, don't take it away from me. Oh, you're pathetic.
Clapper is the one who lied about the NSA indiscriminately spying on every American. This was during the whole Edward Snowden leak to the press. And so, yeah, I got no love for Clapper. And following this, even less love for Clapper. So what did Trump do after seeing that? He says the following. Even James Clapper has admonished John Brennan for having gone totally off the rails. Maybe Clapper is being nice to me so he doesn't lose his security clearance for lying to Congress.
You give in to a bully and he rubs it in, because that's what bullies do. But that's what weaklings like Clapper do, okay? When they're in power, oh, easy. Lies, this, that, the other thing. You want to do drone strikes. You want to do warrantless wiretapping of regular American citizens. Let's run them over with a steamroller, right?
Yeah.
But the minute a bully threatens his money and his clout in Washington and his privilege and his position, all of a sudden Clapper's like, oh, so sorry, me and Brennan, I don't know, Brennan's, he's a problem. Brennan, he's a little, he's too much there. He's causing issues.
So let me get this straight. If you are a former member of either the FBI, CIA, part of the intelligence community, and you decide that you want to practice your First Amendment right and criticize a man in a position of power, you find that rhetoric is problematic? That is unacceptable, right? Like they're folding immediately as soon as their money is on the line. But what about our Constitution? What about our constitutional protections from someone like Donald Trump?
Yeah, so Mudd might not be right in the argument that we just played for you, but at least I respect him, right? Clapper, on the other hand,
no.
Oh, so sad. When Trump unmans you. Just go home. Do you think Trump's strong? Why do you think he's a bully? Because he's so insecure. And you let him push you around and you were supposed to be a tough guy who's protecting the country? No, all you ever cared about was your own power and you just proved it. But I will end on this note, back to Trump for a second. Here's the things that Anna quoted for you, and I want to just reiterate. He said that Mudd was totally unglued and weird. Who does that describe? He said that he was in no mental condition to have a security clearance.
So much projection.
Okay, who does that remind you of? And then of course he says that Brennan had gone off the rails. Who's the guy constantly tweeting like a maniac when he's the president of the United States? Someone who has gone off the rails and is not a very stable genius, okay, and who, by the way, under any other circumstances would never get security clearance. I mean, if there was another Republican who was president, they're like, oh, I'd like to bring Trump into my cabinet and give him, let's say, a position as the head of the NSA or Department of Homeland Security.
Wrong.
I know these are all preposterous ideas, right?
Yeah.
But he literally couldn't get security clearance. I mean, his connections to the Russians for all these years, let alone 1,000 other problems, let alone the fact that he is completely mentally unstable. And now he's going around throwing rocks from his gigantic glass house. Please. Everyone in this story is guilty.
Never miss another TYT video by ringing the bell below. You'll get notified whenever we publish something new. And don't forget to join TYT and download the TYT Plus app today. Download the TYT Plus app on your phone or head over to tyt.com/join.